I am getting ready to put this concrete mixer together. This was one of very few options. This one was a motorized cement mixer. There are some hand mixers similar to this, it's just you got to hand crank it. I didn't see that being very much fun, so I went with the electric version of it. The box did come like this. Actually, there were 4 in stock. All 4 boxes were damaged like this, so I don't know what happened, but doesn't look like anything's damaged inside from what I can tell. I guess I'll find out once I get this open and put it together and get ready to do some concrete. I need this where I'm going to use it, so I put it up here. Just had 3 days in a row of rain, so I don't have many choices where to put it. So right there will work for now. Four bags of nuts, bolts, screws, and pins. I am checking out everything as I go, hoping that there is no damage. Here is part 1 of putting the cement mixer together. You got this piece, which is A, and then you got this piece here, which is D, and then you got this bottom piece right here, which is part E. And then what you have to do is get the nuts and bolts, and you have 2 of the M8 60mm bolts and the 2 M8 nuts, and then you got the M8 45mm bolts with the 2 M8 nuts, and those come from these 2 bags here, which is EE, FF, and HH. So those are the 2 bags you're going to use to put this bottom portion together. Bolts go, well, make sure the long portion of the leg is going this direction, and this is going that direction when you put it together. So the bolt head itself is a 14, and the nut is a 12, just so you're aware. I'm not going to tighten those down all the way yet. When you put this portion together, you want to make sure this is on top and that these pieces are facing up. And then your bolts are going to go in. Bolts are going to go in from the bottom. Again, I'm not going to tighten this all the way because I might need to make some adjustments. Alright, so there's part 1. I do have this pin in here, and that's going to be part of the next step. On the outside of the box, it tells you you only need these tools, but you will need a pair of these too for the cotter pins, and it doesn't make any mention of a pair of pliers. Here is part 2 of the assembly. So you're going to take part 1 that you've already assembled. You need this pin right here, 2 cotter pins, and then these 2 pieces, which are H, and then you'll need a pair of pliers to bend the cotter pins. So these are going to go like this. So they're going to go like that, and then there's a hole there and a hole there. You want to put your cotter pins in there to keep these uprights to the outside. When you do put them on, you do want to make sure they're going out this way, and these are pointed almost straight down. All right, so both of those are on. For this next step, you'll need all of this, and then you will need letter I. Then you will need the chain with the carabiner, the washer, the long bolt nut, these 2 bolts, and those 2 nuts. It's going to be in like this underneath. So I just put that one long bolt going downward with the nut on the back side with the washer on it. Now with these 2 bolts, I'm going to go from the outside. For this part here, put the washer on the long bolt like this. Take your chain, run the long bolt through it. Again, I'm not going to tighten it all the way down. For this next part, you'll need this cover, and you will need 4 nuts and 4 bolts, and this will go on. And once again, I'll hold off on tightening that all down until the end, just in case it's wobbly or crooked. I probably should be on a very flat surface, but I have no flat surface near me at the moment, so I won't be able to do that. For this next part, for the wheels, you'll need these 2 shoulder bolts, 2 of the M10 nuts, and 2 M10 washers, and then you'll need these tires, and these are rubber tires, no valve stems. You know, if you can see the center, but that center was not cut properly. It's only on this one though. With these tires, this long stem is going to be to the inside. The nut washer will go like this to the inside. Once you get the tires on, and again, I haven't tightened those down as well. I'll tighten everything when I get done. For this next part, you'll need port G and F, and then you'll need this single chain link. You'll need 3 M8 nuts. You'll need an M45 bolt and 3 M40 bolts. I almost forgot a part, but J will also be needed on here. J and G will be joined right here. So once you have J and G together, the next step is to put F on. This part right here is kind of odd the way I put it together. So this will go here. You put a M40 bolt. So that's how that's going to go on there. The next thing that has to be done is with an M45 bolt, your chain link. You're just going to put your bolt through the chain link, put it in this last hole here, and then put your nut on. For this next part, you're going to mount the motor on here, and so you will have to take the nut, split washer, and flat washers off, and you need to make sure that this box right here is facing straight up when you put it on. Forgot to mention that the socket you'll need is a 13mm to put the nuts back on the threaded bolts for the motor. It did make it a little bit easier to stand the motor up on end and then slide it on, but the threads on these bolts were prevented from sliding on. Now you need to put flat washers, then the split washers. Can't remember if I said it or not, but these should all be on the motor when you take it out of the box. But don't be surprised if they may not, and they could possibly be inside the box, because I did have one set that was not on the motor, but it was sitting inside the box. Just be aware, it may only be in my case, but could be in your case as well, that the threadings on the bolts and the nuts are very rough. They're, every time you go to put a nut on a bolt, you know, any other time, you just put it on there and spin it, and it goes on. But these, they're very, very rough. They don't want to go on that well. thing they don't mention is that you may need a long socket, especially for this part, because two of them stopped before it got all the way to the end. I was checking the underside just to make sure that this is seated properly, nice and flat, because definitely don't want the motor flopping around. Now I am going to tighten up some of these nuts that are loose, because now that it's stabilized on the motor, I know I can get all these tightened up. For this next part, you're going to need 2 of these U-bolts, and you will need 4 of these nuts. And what you can do is slide it on there. This is what is going to mount the motor onto the support base. You leave it loose, and then you need to put the other one on the other side. Alright, so both of the U-bolts are on. Now, what I have to do is get it on that pin and that pin while trying to hold the motor up and putting it on there by myself. And the big thing is making sure that the motor is towards the back and the center when you go to put it on. I am definitely not going to get it on the way I thought I could, so let's put it on like this. So right now it is loosely on there. Get it all tightened up. Trying to tighten these nuts down so that they're going down evenly, so I'm not pulling the U-bolt all the way through one side and then not have much threading on the other. Every time I tighten down a nut, a lot of the threading material is coming off. I don't think it's stripping, I just think that it was a really rough cut on the bolts, and as you tighten it down, it's unraveling from the inside of the nuts or off the bolts. So there's that. I need somewhere flat to put this to tighten everything down, otherwise this thing's going to be all wobbly. Last three parts: cotter pin for the drum, and then the drum itself. So there's the drum, and you got to get this lined up with the hole that's on the shaft of the motor. So in this case, you will need to rotate the drum to get it where you need it. You will have to push the drum forward in order to get it to line up. And then you will need to turn your pin so that you can get the cotter pin in. Alright, cotter pin's on, drum is in place. And you can see that since I don't have everything tightened up yet, the drum is sitting on this wheel here, these two, but not sitting on these, and that's because I don't have everything tightened up. So I need to get everything tightened up. This is where the chain and the carabiner come into play, and that single link. So the single link's here if you want to keep the drum from going forward. You can put the carabiner on, and then when you, or it's like you're traveling with it or something. So yeah, that's how it goes. That just prevents it from going forward. Now that I have everything all tightened up, and the drum actually does sit on all the wheels, and I've got all the bolts tightened, and now it's time to check to make sure that it actually works. Seems like it's a little wobbly, but it's good enough for what it needs to do as long as it keeps running until I'm finished using it. So that's ready to go. What I plan on doing is taking my Kubota BX23S, put the cement bags on the front loader. I'll put these boards across here, and then I think I can get 6 or 7 bags on the front loader and still be able to lift it. I think 8 is like max where it won't lift anymore. So I'll probably just go with 6 bags, bring them over, put it about height so that all I got to do is take it from the front loader, dump it in here, and mix it. And that's ready to go. This handle right here is very, very loose. Took it off and put it back on, but still pretty loose on there. Doesn't have much functionality, so should be all right.